So welcome to the Totally Worth It podcast. Today we're sitting down with Jamiel Owens, and we're so happy to have him as another father of special needs. That's just a type of guest that we value greatly because we're hard to find. It's hard to find fathers with special needs who will just come out and pour out their heart and talk about their grief and their struggle and their joy and all of that. So Jamiel, we're so happy to have you. And you and I got connected on Instagram earlier this year, had a conversation, learned each other's stories. I've told Amy a little bit about your story. Okay. A lot of our listeners don't know your story.
Okay.
So would you mind just sharing who you are and your heart for special needs, your own challenges, and then, of course, you have a son with a diagnosis as well. So can you just share that for us?
So my name is Jamiel Owens. First, I want to say thank you, John and Amy, for having me here. This is an honor, and you are right. We don't have enough fathers, enough men speaking out about their pain, about their challenges, especially when it comes to the special needs community, specifically autism, or I like to call them awesome parents, awesome individuals, awesome children. We need more fathers to actually speak up. So hopefully with what I call my testimony today, being on this show, this podcast, it will encourage someone out there to speak up, another man to speak up, or feel the need to open up more, maybe to his wife or his partner, or to even his own awesome child. So that is the goal. That is how I am going to love on each and every one of you who listens to this. So a little bit briefly, because I know we got a series of questions that's going to unpack a lot more about me, but a little bit about me. My name is Jamiel Owens. I currently reside in Hatfield, Pennsylvania. I am a volunteer firefighter up here. I am an ex-corrections officer. I am also a father of a 12-year-old awesome boy. He is amazing, and his name is Shayne. I do have several of their kids due to my marriage. So I am now in full array of a very big family. Which is ultimately, every man's dream is to be able to have a very fruitful family, healthy and fruitful family, which I've been blessed with. Basically, what I do personally is I use the platform which I have. It's called the Ausome Show, and that's AUSOME. And what I did is I took the pain and the suffering from which I experienced through the diagnosis of my son, and gave men, and also women too, caregivers, anybody that has to deal with the awesome community, and a chance to actually speak. And I'm not talking specifically doctors, professionals, therapists. I'm speaking about your everyday parent. This is the reason for the Ausome Show, but it's also to motivate men mostly to find themselves, find their purpose, and to find love. Because when you do that, you can better love your family and better love your awesome child, him or her, whatever the case may be. So that's a little bit about myself. I know you have a series of questions, John, that was probably, like I said, will unpack a lot more about who I am. So I don't want to give them too much information. I want to leave a little bit for suspense,
Well, I can already feel your heart. I mean, I'm a father who is happy to share my heart just like you. And you just gave me goosebumps when you were just talking about the love that you share and making your family better through it. So, so thank you for that.
The next correction for you, John. You're not just a father. You're an awesome, amazing father. So let's encapsulize that when you talk about yourself. Because
all right, Amy, you hear that?
I'm just teasing. I am just teasing. So Jamiel, tell me, you mentioned your son, Shayne. When you first got a diagnosis for Shayne, what did you know about autism? What did you have any preconceived, ideas or notions or anything like that, that ended up being wrong, that you've learned new? How much did you know? And were you scared? What were your feelings?
Wow. Good question. So I grew up, I'm an 80s baby. So obviously you could tell just from my demeanor, a little bit about my physical appearance. I grew up in that urban culture, which is completely fine. And unfortunately with the urban culture, a lot of our slang give you an instance using the word retarded didn't really necessarily mean anything negative, but it could have been something that we used jokingly with some of our friends when we were talking about something. Unfortunately, I didn't have a good male presence back then, which was my father. Shout out to my dad now, who found me, came back into my life, and has been a very a rock in my life right now as far as accountability and everything else. But at that time, I didn't have that. It was just me and my mom. So I grew accustomed to seeing anything that I didn't know and that I was scared of saying that it was retarded. So when I did see individuals that had special needs, things outside of that, I labeled them that. Now, be known to anybody that may be watching this is that I am characterized as being someone that is disabled myself. So it's kind of real weird how that actually happened. I have on my leg what is called an AV fistula, which is the missing of the main vein that extends down to my feet and transfer the blood back up to my brain. So the doctors had to make a quick fix when I was born, or I would have passed away at the actual birthing table. And now I have something that is physically noticeable by anybody who sees me, especially if I wear shorts or if I'm out at the pool or anything. And this used to haunt me for so many years. So you can see the pain and the suffering that I went through. And instead of harboring that and turning it into positive, I wanted to transfer that pain to someone else. And we're going to get back into that later on in the show. We're going to talk about that, but that's wrong. So when I was sitting in the office with his mother, and we got the diagnosis of autism. It was just as flat as it possibly could be. Mm-hmm. And this was no fault of the physicians, as there's no back out plan for a doctor to really connect with their patients and with the parents and also that individual that has been diagnosed. It really isn't. It's really up to the actual doctor themselves, the physicians. But it was just basically said, hey, your child does have autism. I can really recall everything about that. The first thing was just regret. And I'm sorry to say, it was, and I'm just being transparent with you, I wanted to hit that restart button. I wanted to say, hey, you know, God, why are you giving me this child that is not quote unquote normal? I don't deserve this. I deserve a normal child. I deserve a child that will do better in life. I deserve a child that will exceed anybody's thoughts and opinions of what a man can do. And now I'm just stuck with this child. So that was the first thing that I felt. I felt like pointing at my then wife and saying, hey, this is your fault, which is completely wrong. There's no one's fault in this. This is a gift from God. This is a blessing. And those who actually endure the time together through this trial will actually see that. So that was the second emotion. And the third thing was, okay, this is my fault. So you can see the transition between I want to start over, this is your fault, and this is my fault. And what I felt was like, okay, there's something wrong with me. I failed as a man to produce a very strong, will-bodied child who will grow up to be this virile, man that everybody will adore and love. I failed at this. Well, really, I actually was conceiving a blessing upon myself and the world, but I just didn't see that. So that was the three things that I felt initially at getting the diagnosis of my son. And it took a toll. It took a toll. I searched for everything outside of my own family to help me cope with this diagnosis, going out, drinking, constantly partying, just hanging out with my friends, instead of instilling the foundation at my home with my then wife and really building that love and that understanding and starting to look about this autism, about what it is, about who are these individuals. Too often the women, the wives, and shout out to all the mothers out there, all the single women, they are the forerunners. They are the ones that hit the ground running. They put the feet down to the floor and then start researching about this. I was dealing with my own ego problems, my own masculinity issues to even start to deal with my sons. So that was a hindrance in mine. And I know a lot of men actually go through that. So, it took me a very, very long time, but I had to process what was inside my heart and my mind first. And unfortunately, I took the coward way out. I took the way of the world, and you can't do that when it comes down to development of your child and building that love.
You mentioned your three emotions, and it's funny that not funny, but that we just want to blame somebody. So you wanted to blame God, then you wanted to blame your wife at the time, then you wanted to blame yourself. And
Yep.
that's just, it's so, that we always just go to, well, this has to be somebody's fault. I think that's a big, because I had that guilt. I mean, we talked, mom's guilt is real. But,
Yes.
before we had a firm diagnosis, I would say, oh, well, I drank Dr. Peppers when I was pregnant, or something, you're always trying to find a reason why until you finally come into the reason of it's because they were perfectly made, and it takes a long time. John hit that realization way before I did. So it took me a lot longer, which is usually the reverse, Yeah.
Yeah, you talked, Jamiel, about that diagnosis coming from the doctor, and it sounded like it was just very cold or very dry or very non-emotional, is what it sounds like. I tell people about that a lot. I mean, we've received that news of 2 or 3 different times through Mabry's 18 years, some news that we didn't want to hear. And it always shocks me, and it really shocked me that first time when she was, 2 or 3, of how cold the doctor is. And I had to learn, hey, it's not the doctor's fault. Like if I put myself in the doctor's shoes, the doctor might be given bad news to 7 different people today.
Yeah.
And this is the 5th day in a row. What are they supposed to do? They just met us. They're doing their job. We want it to be warm fuzzy because we've never heard news like this. And, maybe you've had bad news from a doctor at some point. I know at our time, Amy and I were 23 years old. We had neither one of us had ever been in a bad news situation like that. And so for them to just walk in and sit down and said, here's what's going on, I'm going to refer you to go see somebody else from here. And we're like, man, like we need to sit down and like you get to know each other a little bit before you tell me some news like that.
Exactly.
It's tough.
That's hard.
Exactly. I think, hopefully, with conversations like this and so many other podcasts and topics that are coming up, hospitals will start to realize the importance of actually maybe going through some additional training for physicians to really see outside the box when they're relating to some parents. Now, this is not all physicians, because just like you said, John, there's doctors that unfortunately have to give bad news 12, 15 times a day, and it wears on their soul and their heart. Their heart becomes a little callous because this is the world that we live in. So sometimes we have to take ourselves out of the box and look at the doctor's standpoint, like, listen, they're doing the best that they can. Maybe they're not too familiar themselves with how to have emotional connection because of their job. So, at the end of the day, I wish I could remember who that doctor was, because, quite frankly, I was a little ignorant when I walked out of there. It wasn't pleasant for me to actually hear that. And just for, maybe she's listening, maybe she will see this, and, I apologize. I'm sorry. You diagnosed my son, Shayne, and you were speaking to me and his mom. And you know what? It was something that we took, and we didn't want to hear it. Obviously, no one wants to hear bad news, but we appreciate your diagnosis, because you have helped us tremendously from that time to where we're at now. So, that doctor's out there. Hopefully she's still living. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Jamiel, just speaking as a father and to a father and speaking to other fathers, you talked about some of your grieving process and those 3 emotions. As you get to know other fathers or speak to them, what do you think the common grieving process looks like for a father? If there is such a common process, maybe there's not anything that's common. Excuse me.
I think,
and what advice do you give them, or would you tell the not only the fathers listening, but also maybe the wives who are trying to be partners with their husband who are going through the same grieving?
Oh, it's a good question, a lot to unpack, but I'm gonna make it as simple as possible. I think the most commonality when we're speaking to men, talking about first time diagnosis, is the fact that they need to hear and they need to feel that it will be okay. Um, Not just men, but women also, the wives, the partners in this situation, that it will need to be okay, and that is nobody's fault. It's not yours. It's not hers. It's not his. It's nobody's fault. Um, Once again, ego, masculinity, pride. These are the three things that play a lot into a man's thinking process when it comes down to that diagnosis. What I see the most is a man's pride being affected, and that is the thing that can really subtract his presence when it comes down to being in a marriage or a relationship, whatever the case may be, the situation may be. So I think it's the absence of pride when they hear that their son or daughter has been diagnosed on the spectrum. That is an internal issue, but this internal issue can actually be helped. It can be nurtured from the woman. But us as men, what we do is we shut off our wives, our partners, because we have that mentality, once again, our pride, saying, oh, I can handle this. I can get over this. You're not going to be able to do. I'm telling you, listen, let me get close to this camera. You're not going to be able to do this alone, nor should you want to do this alone. And the reason why I say this, if we go back to the simple principles, and no disrespect to anybody out here who has a different religion. I'm a Christian, but we go back to the simple principles, which has helped me in my marriage, in my relationship, in my loving my son, and loving everybody that's on the autism spectrum or with special needs. God knew Adam needed Eve. Mm-hmm. Adam didn't ask for her, but God knew that he needed her. So what did he do? He placed Adam to sleep. He took a rib from Adam. He made Eve. This is predestined. This is before time. You need that woman in your life. And more so now, you guys need each other. And especially in a marriage, you two become one. You are now one person that intertwined within each other, that are supposed to share the cries, the smiles, the upsets, the triumphs, everything. So you need to work together as a team. That is your teammate. So for the woman that's out there who can't seem to get across to their husband, who seems to fall short every single time, who's frustrated herself, who has those thoughts, Amy, just like you said, that this is my fault too. You have to realize that you guys are on a team. You have to really question that man for his integrity when it comes down to being that man in the relationship and the leader of that whole household. What are we going to do? Hold them accountable. The Bible holds every single person accountable for what they do, especially for me. And my wife corrects me all the time. She says, yo, what are you going to do? If it's something that I don't want to face, what you going to do? And she leaves it in my hands. So I think that's a straight jab at men's pride. Like, yo, what are you going to do? And give it to them. And either we're going to take that shot and we're going to keep on fighting, or we're going to take the shot and we're going to fall down. Either way, you're at the mercy of God. Either way, you're going to get through this. But you have to work as a team. That's going to be open communication. That's going to be those tough conversations, conversations I have with my son's moms, conversations I have with my wife, conversations I have with my son. Those tough conversations are going to happen, but it can just be open, be willing, be patient, very, very patient, and let your husband know, I'm your partner. You don't have to play that pride role with me. I'm here with you, but I need you to be open, to be compassionate, to be transparent, to be present. The most important thing.
It's with what you're saying with the pride, because I think men in general are considered fixers. Like, they just want, if they hear, okay, so how do we fix it? Instead of, and this isn't something you can just fix. So I think that not being a man myself, but I think that's where many husbands and fathers kind of lose their way, because this isn't a fix. There's not an easy fix. And I think that's when the retreat happens, the shutting off or the retreating, rather than digging in and doing the work.
Yes. I think it's that the bonding in the building is the most important thing. But let's pose another question. Is what about those single mothers who unfortunately have been placed in the imbalanced state of being that provider? What I'm saying by imbalance is no disrespect, because my mother was a single mother for so many years, but now she has to play both roles of the male and the female in the family. So when she does meet that, that Prince Charming or that person that wants to be a part of her life, wants to come into her life, it's very hard for her to relinquish that power.
Mhm.
That's pride. That's a male pride placed into the position of a woman, and it's nothing wrong with it. Don't misread what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with it. But women do have that. And sometimes it causes some heads to butt. It does. It causes some heads to butt. So I think it's on both sides of the spectrum, both male and female. Just really depends on the situation. But yes, everyone has to relinquish pride. They have to remove themselves from themselves in order to, one, love your partner, and then love your child. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Jamiel. Our life-changing moment in our relationship and in our marriage was when, in my head, we became Team John and Amy. And it was one person, just like you said, one team after the same goal, and we need each other. What's interesting, because we grieved at different speeds, is when I almost felt it in my head click, and Amy wasn't yet ready for it. So it's got to be both. It's got to be both people saying, a team. We're Team John and Amy. And at that moment, our life changed for the good. Getting to that point, man, it's tough.
Yeah. Well, and I think also too, when you were talking about, the single mom and having to do everything, you have to be everything to these children. First of all, you don't have time to date. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have time to do much of anything. With the work that I do, I have several close friends that are single moms of special needs, and they are superwoman.
Yeah.
And it is just unbelievable the amount of time, effort, energy, exhaustion, and yeah, I think that there is a shield built up, because not only do they have that pride, but they have that protection mode of, I haven't been able, they probably don't have time to grieve. I mean, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
So that all of that together, my goodness, we're fortunate. We're very fortunate.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And unfortunately, it's a never-ending cycle until someone breaks that cycle. And you know what? I read it again in my Bible. My wife reaffirms it. Those who are in my circle, who are my friends, who hold me accountable, you got to be the one. Men, you have to be the one that breaks that cycle, that sits there and come towards your wives and apologize. And sometimes it does take a while. Sometimes, you know what? It's better to separate and go into separate rooms and think about it. But at the end of the day, you have to be open with your partner. That's the best advice that I can give you. You don't want to be a statistic. Even though the CDC reports that marriage rates are not a cause of autism, like high divorce rates. Divorce rates are not a cause because of autism. There are a lot of marriages, a lot of couples relationships that are basically no more, and the reason is not solely on autism, but it's the icing on the cake. It's things in life that just adds on and adds on. So if you guys were already not on the same team before the diagnosis, some cases it brings them together, but a lot of cases it separates them even further. How are you, men? How are you going to step up to just sit there and be like, listen, babe, you know what? I'm sorry for everything, but we need to be together on this. Are you going to be that person? You know, and I think that's more. And this is something, unfortunately, I had to learn the hard way. So, you know, once again, shows like this, where everybody are interviewing guests, we don't want you to go down that road. We want you to actually see this and be like, hey, I can stop this now. And they gave me the formula on how to stop this.
John's mentioned a lot, and John, you could probably talk on this too, is that I mean, divorce isn't in our conversation, but he's mentioned, man, sometimes have it every other weekend sounds kind of nice, you know, because it's such, and he doesn't mean that about me, obviously, right, John?
Obviously.
No, I mean, I think I said it in the very first episode of our podcast, is Amy and I, divorce is not in the equation for us. We're fortunate in that, you know, we've got a great relationship and we've built that bond as a team. And marriage is hard, parenting is hard. You add autism to it, and everything is harder.
More hard.
But there are times, and it happens quite often. Mabry, our daughter, is difficult, and she wears us out to the core. And there are times when it crosses my mind that says, man, having Mabry every other week sounds like a dream. Her going, living with Amy for a week, and then coming and living with me for a week sounds so, oh my gosh, that week would be so nice. But the problem is, I want to live with Amy full time. I don't want to be with her half the time. and so here we are. But I understand that's just one little factor in how it complicates marriages and relationships even more. Is you're both getting one to the core, and you got to figure out how to divvy up that work, and you know, just be able to understand the other, and you know, you got to be in it together.
And Jamiel, maybe you could speak on this too, is that I think in order to keep marriages strong and healthy, it is going to have to require quality respite care, because couples have to get away. They have to be able to take care of themselves, self-care, all of that. And I think until we can start seeing quality respite care at affordable also, I think the trend's not going to stop, you know, until we get some breaks for these parents.
Amy, it's great that you actually mentioned that. And I want everybody to really pull back from what's going on in the world today and look at perspective. Now, we were in a pandemic. We still are in a pandemic. I was furloughed from my job starting at the beginning of the pandemic. And then I went back to work, I would say June. So there was months that I wasn't working. Panic, I wouldn't say depression, but anxiety came into play with me. How am I going to provide for my family? What's going on? You know, I got, you know, compensation just like everybody else applied for. I was able to get that and provide. But what I want people to really open up their minds to, and what I did was, this was a time for rest and reconstruction. And most importantly, when it came down to men, to use this time effectively. What I mean by that is that I began to continue to run more. I was running more. I was getting my exercise in. I was reading my Bible more. I was, you know, exercising, you know, different things to strengthen my faith. But most importantly, I was spending more time with my family and my kids. You can't put a price on that. So when people look and they're like, oh yeah, you know, I was furloughed, I wasn't working, oh my God, I didn't know what to do, I was home and I was depressed. I look at them and I say, there was a blessing in that. There was time for you to sit back and analyze different parts of your life that you needed to fix. It could have been your credit, which I did. It could have been so many different things that you were given the honor to actually fix. But the most important thing is, did you? Did you use that time effectively, or did you look at it negatively and say, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to sulk. I'm just going to go to the liquor store and just continue to buy, you know, gallons and gallons of liquor. And you could have used that money to save for your child's education in the future. You could have used that money, once again, to fix your credit so you can afford something for yourself or your child in the future. It was so many different things. So I think that getaway time a lot of parents, and once again, if you need more getaway time, I understand. All of us actually do. We need to get away every weekend if we possibly could. But we just was served a very large amount of time to actually refocus on what is best for ourselves so we can better serve our family. So I just, not to overshadow what you said, Amy, but I do believe we were given the opportunity to just get a little bit of recharge. For some parents, unfortunately, because their children are a little bit on the spectrum with more needs than others, it was a challenging time. But I guarantee you, if you talk to them and you ask them, would you trade this time that you had home with your child, helping them with their schoolwork, would you trade that for that office 9 to 5? And I guarantee you they will say no, because they built that bond between themselves, their family, and their children. You can't get that back.
And we really did love the time with our kids, but for Mabry, it was extremely hard. Just not being in school, not having the structure, not knowing why her favorite places were closed, not being able to explain that. It was difficult. So I think especially autism was hard during that time. It was super hard. I think I think what came out of the pandemic for us is that we've outlawed the game of Uno in our house.
Yep,
we are no longer allowed to play Uno. John threw the cards away.
Oh, man.
We have a son that we're not going to name that doesn't lose very well.
He knows who he is. He knows who he is.
You know what game that's for then, John? Battleship. Because that's a hard lose. Like, ooh, look at this ship go down.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's a hard pill to swallow, but we swallow it. We be like, okay, I'm gonna get you next round. We start to think a little bit better.
So Jamiel, tell us how the Ausome show came about. Tell us about the beginning of that and how just tell us about it.
Oh man. Well, the Ausome show, I wish I had one of my shirts around here. Actually started off with, once again, me and my ex-wife, my son's mom. Shout out to my son's mom and her boyfriend. Amazing job in their household, helping to love on my son and just bonding with us over here in my household. But we were going through a difficult time in divorce, as you know. It's all emotion. And I was looking for some type of way to channel my anger towards her and not really put it on her physically. So what I did was I signed my son up for the Autism Speaks walk here in Philadelphia. And I started this campaign, Team Shayne and Friends. So I got the help of several individuals at a particular place I was working at. One girl, she wrote out a donation page that I could give out to businesses. Another one planned an actual fundraising event for me. We were just in there. I had a DJ who two DJs that devoted their time. I actually made a mix CD and for my son's team that had all of top 40 hits, no profanity, something that the whole family can enjoy and that awesome children can actually enjoy listening to and dance and just feel good. And I was able to, between wristbands, t-shirts, and just donations, I was able to donate over 2,500. And that was just me, with the help of these individuals, with just a idea and a dream. 2,500 to the Autism Speaks Foundation. I received a bronze plaque, and it made me feel so good because I was able to make a difference for people to see what I'm doing. So looking at that, I was like, wow, I wonder how many other fathers out there are feeling the way that I did or still am and how they're coping with it. So I said, I want to make a show. I worked for radio one time in my lifetime, so I know the ins and outs of radio. And I was like, well, I think I could talk about this because I live it. So I started the Ausome show on online radio, computer web-based radio. And what we did is we invited guests. I've had Christian hip hop stars come on, talk about their children being on the spectrum. Ben Hartraff, who is the host. I'm also on that show, the Ben and Jay show. He was the first guest with his father, Glenn, on my show. And that relationship just kept on, and we kept on building that from that standpoint. But it was really a platform for the average person, that average, warehouse worker, or, person that just was, just trying to do the hustle and bustle every day, to give them a platform to actually speak out their feelings. I gave a lot of mothers the opportunity to speak out for the first time, which was very, very fulfilling for me, because they trusted me enough to actually share their story out in open ways. I was able to help supply some information to some families, get families connected with the simplest things like a barber, having that opportunity to actually take their son to get a haircut for the first time. So it was so many things, but once again, what fulfilled me and what continues to fulfill me is loving and serving on others. So that's pretty much the mission of the Ausome show. But also continued on to that was I see the need for men to actually have content that uplifts them spiritually, mentally, and physically. So I try to speak and pour into men, especially because we are supposed to be the leaders of the household. We are supposed to be the ones that help build the foundation of our family. So, I'm always trying to uplift them with books, literature that they can actually read. I offer to send fathers free literature from me, just from me loving on them. Hopefully, it will guide them towards where they need to be in life, their purpose, and help them out in their goals in the future. So that's how it started. It just started with one man having anger towards the whole world, going through a divorce, feeling like crap, like he's nothing, and channeling that to positive energy to love on others, to make sure that they don't go through the same thing either.
Wow. And so what is the Ausome show today? Is it a podcast? Is it a YouTube show? Where do you find it and what do you do?
Okay, so I do have a show I have a YouTube channel. It's called The Ausome Show 2020. So that's TheAusome 2020. So I have a couple episodes on there. I do have a Instagram page, which is The Ausome Show, all one word, TheAusomeshow. The Ben and Jay Show. You can look us up on YouTube, The Ben and Jay Show. You'll find all our videos there. And I do have a podcast, which is on Spotify and Anchor. Now, I like to get more content out, but my life has been so busy, and I do apologize, because you see all these YouTubers and everybody, even you guys, you're constantly able to put out product, and I applaud you for it. And I'm trying. It's just that I'm going through classes with the fire company right now, so I'm in school. I'm working about 12 hours a day. Then I'm doing the Ben and Jay show too, so I'm all over the world. But definitely, when I get to content, it's uploaded. It's from the heart. It's me loving on other people. So follow me. Also on Facebook too, The Ausome Show. Follow me. Engage with me. DM me if you have any questions. I encourage fathers to talk to me straight up and to reach out to me. Even the mothers, if they need to talk and reach out, and I give them just the purity of my heart, just try to love on them, make sure they understand that they're not alone, and try to guide them towards, where they need to be.
Tell us a little bit about the Ben and Jay Show.
Oh man, Ben Hartraff, my guy. I consider him my brother, 22-year-old autistic male who has beat the odds. He drives, he works. He's constantly just changing and evolving what autism looks like for me, especially with a 12-year-old boy who's going to be him someday. It gives me a little bit of ease, because as us parents, we always fear what's going to be of our son and daughter once we die, once we are no longer here. And Ben reassures me that every single day, along with patience, along with just integrity. But the Ben and Jay show started off during furlough. Like I said, I was furloughed from my job, and Ben called me up one day, and he was like, "Hey, Jay, I want to start a show. I want to start a show that just let people know that, you're on our hearts." And it's funny, because I was literally speaking and saying, I want to do something to help others during this time where I have nothing to do. And he said, "Are you on?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm on." So he works with an organization also called Access Services. which is a nonprofit organization within the eastern counties of Pennsylvania. So we are under them. We have had these shows since the beginning of COVID. We just completed our 29th show this Friday. We had the directors and writers of Hero Elementary on PBS a part of our show. We have had Daniel Baldwin and Atticus Baldwin on our shows. We have had so many aspiring guests and inspirational children on our shows. Is simply amazing. So it's a weekly webinar that we just put out there, and we show those individuals in an awesome community that we love them, and they're not alone. And there's other awesome individuals out there just like them.
You talk about when it all started making the t-shirts, and I've seen the t-shirts on Instagram of you and your son, kind of like a silhouette drawing of it.
Yeah.
Can people buy those? Are those for sale somewhere, or are just a few select people have them?
It's only a select people have them, but if somebody sits there and they want to support the Ausome show, which I'm getting some merch together. My wife is helping me out with that. We're just trying to once again just expel out with the t-shirt or the face mask, whatever the case may be, that this is something that is not going to generate money just for me. This is something that I want to generate in order to open up more programs. The Ben and Jay show, the Ausome show, like I said, we're sending out books such as this. I'm going to show you like one book right here. Pastor Francis Chan, Letters to the Church, something inspirational give to men out there who are struggling with their purpose, trying to find out who they are in the midst of a diagnosis. And even if they don't have children on the spectrum and they're just a fan of the show, I'm sending those out for free. Of course, this costs a budget, so I am looking for sponsors on both platforms. But right now, God put this on my heart, so I send it out off of my dollar, because at the end of the day, if I can save a soul rather than save a dollar, I'd rather save a soul. So I send it out. But we're looking for some new merch, so just be on standby for that, and it will have the silhouette of my son, or it will have some catchy phrases that will just be up to date with the generation in which we live in. But it's coming soon.
Nice. Well, you can see that Mabry hijacked Amy.
I see, and that's funny too, because I was really considering I might actually do that. Get my son Shayne so you guys can see this handsomely beautiful guy.
We're on mute because you don't want to listen to the wiggles on my phone.
Oh yeah, I do.
So no, we do not. Well, not in Portuguese, you don't, because that's what we're doing right now.
Wow, look at that. Check her
So
out.
I'll go ahead and mute myself back.
It's you know what it is, Amy and John. It's so refreshing to see our awesome children on the show when we do podcasts like this, so people can understand we're just regular people. We're regular people who have these amazing children that we want the world to see. And it's not just for saying like, oh, my child's amazing and you're not. It's for us to feel as a community. When you walk outside and you live in a community, you say, how you doing, neighbor? Hey, what's going on, John? What's going on, Amy? And you see their children, hey, what's going on with such and such? And it's amazing to actually see that. So why not do this here? So I'm happy. I'm happy to see her. Let me see if my guy can actually come on here. This is he got so he was eating wings supposedly. Look at this big boy right here. Oh yes. Say hi, Shayne. So this is the guy right here who's huge. This is the one who made me into the man I am today, because he taught me how to really love. So,
and Shayne, are you watching? Shayne, do you like football, or what is it that you like?
Oh yeah, I do.
But
what's your team?
Not the
Eagles.
Oh,
look, Shayne.
Eagles.
Shayne, look at this.
EAGLES.
Eagles.
Oh, she got Dallas. Look at that. Amy got
Look at
Dallas.
that, Shayne. Hey, if I send you a Cowboys hat, would you wear it?
Oh, I would.
Oh,
Texas.
That's the picture that we need.
Okay.
Send a return box, Amy, because I'm gonna send him right back down here.
We've converted another one. Yes.
Yes.
Crazy. So hey, put it out there, guys. I mean, they're just That's who he is, and it goes back into what I said, in the beginning about the blessing. I did not see what this child was as far as a blessing to me. And now that I look back and look at perspective, I was a child that people looked at and they gawked and they said, "Oh, what's that? What's wrong with him?" And they looked at my leg and they put me in that box. And God was just so giving to give me a child that lived outside the box. And he said, "I want you to teach him everything that you've experienced and more." So I sat there in that first and I battled with myself and I said, I can't do this and I don't want to do this and this is not fair. And then finally, when I was just broken down to everything, who was there with me, who actually smiled, who actually gave me a hug? Shayne was. And then at that point, I realized this is my angel. This is my blessing that God gave me. And I got back up and I said, all right, I'm going to do this. And I started loving him and he started loving me. And I started really digging in, going to IEP meetings and learning about autism and seeing another autistic child or another special needs child out and smiling, because I knew that child was the best form of love that this world can ever see and ever can imagine. And then I started to build up my love and my understanding of the principles of the Bible. And I just looked at my son and I understood that he is the principles: compassion, love, empathy, happiness. And then I just started to open up my eyes and open up my heart. God gave me the most beautiful gift on this planet, and that's anybody's children. He gives you these gifts so you can change yourselves. So I tell men all the time, change yourself. And before we go, I'm sorry to ramble on, but I was looking for something to try to empower individuals, to give hope to somebody, especially in these times. And I looked in my Bible after coming from church, and I pulled up Isaiah 41, chapter 41, verse 10. And it says, do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. How can we not feel the warmth and the love with that? I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you. So when you, not to minimize the creator God, but when you look at that, look at our awesome children. Look at people like Shayne. And when you're down, when you feel like you can't do this no more, who are the individuals that look at you, that smile, that come into that room, that gives you that hug, that warm embrace, who strengthens you and who upholds you? This is God in these children. You gotta love that. You gotta see the blessing in that. Men, you have to understand that you will enrich treasures beyond imagine just by dying to yourself, understanding what your purpose is, and loving these individual children. That's all. I sound too much like a preacher right now. I'm not trying to. Awesome. I'm not. I'm just a father, but I'm telling you, it's amazing, and I just want to share it with you guys in the world.
Well, Jamiel, I'm going to tell you what you told me at the beginning is you're more than just a father. You have a calling to speak life into people and to specifically into fathers. You have been such a joy to have on, and I know that our audience is going to get a lot out of this. I know that somebody listening right now, you just impacted their life in a positive way, and we're never going to know about it. But you have a calling, and I appreciate you being on and sharing your heart, because what you do is important. I feel like you should be my neighbor. I feel like we'd be hanging out 3 nights a week because we have so much in common. And I love that. So I'm so glad that we've connected, and I know that we'll get to do life together for a long time, and I'm happy about it.
Of course. Listen. I'm always blessed as long as Amy doesn't wear the cowboy hat. We'll be fine. And she gonna tip it like she's like, it ain't going nowhere. That's okay. Amy, I got you. I'm gonna give you an Eagles mug. Don't worry about it. Brand new, 2020. Wow. Send that joint right down. I'm gonna pay for express mail. I'm even gonna pay for express mail.
We've been needing some firewood for the winter, so bring it on.
Oh
Hey,
man,
Jamiel, thanks so much for being with us and
Thank
for
you.
all you do, all the work that you do. We're going to be following you. We're going to be sending people your way. We can't wait to see what you guys do.
And
Thanks
you
again.
guys, thank you for everything that you do. I just want to end it. I love you guys. I love everyone. Please understand that love is a free thing. You don't have to pay for it. It's not electric. It's not water. It's free. It's the most deserving thing that everybody needs and they want. So remember that. And I'm telling you, perfect stranger, someone that looks different than you, that lives in a different environment than you. I love you. Say it to someone else. That's all I ask.
Good word.